Metropole Debrief is a dialogue and everyone has a say. This is Social Watch. My mic is off and your voice is on. We want to sample some of the feedback that you've been sending online, what you've had to say about the recent developments on coronavirus in the country. And we remember most recently, a local daily ran a story that KEMRI had run broke. Now, KEMRI was saying that it had exhausted the 158 million that it had been given to deal with the coronavirus pandemic in the country, and was looking for an additional 950 million from well-wishers and donors to enable them to buy kits, reagents, PPEs, and even hire more staff to be able to carry out duties in relation to fighting COVID-19 in the country. Now, this did not augur well with people of the internet, and you had a thing or two to say on Twitter about this story. Let's sample some of the views that you shared on Twitter. At Kenyan Boy says, Kenya, lockdown being relaxed, JKIA reopening, hotels reopening, political temperatures at all-time high, COVID-19 cases rising, KEMRI too broke to effectively conduct tests, task force being formed, Bungoma MCAs took 2 million shillings as COVID allowance, and it's only 8:25 a.m. So Kenyan Boy venting out his frustrations and saying, we are doing everything to reopen our economy and sometimes even going against some of the things that we should be doing, yet KEMRI is too broke to conduct tests to ensure that even while we reopen our economy, we stay safe. Let's take a look at another tweet that was shared online. At CBS_KE says, the KEMRI cannot replenish the testing materials, PPEs, and vital reagents used in the testing. It has been deemed broke while there are more aid While there are more aid from World Bank, IMF, and many other aids. Are we winning the war against COVID-19? So CBS_KE is just questioning the fact that day in, day out, we are receiving aid from international organizations, the World Bank, the IMF, and other aid organizations. Yet, where the money needs to be utilized the most, KEMRI, they're saying they're broke and they do not have the money. And he's wondering if we are taking the right steps and winning the war against COVID-19. Let's take a look at another reaction from you online. At Mangunyi says, if we can afford to allocate 70 million for communication and 4 million for tea and mandazi from the billions received from donors to fight COVID-19, why is KEMRI broke? Here we are seeing Mangunyi just question some of the decisions that the government has taken in terms of allocating the donor funds that we've received. We all remember that this caused a lot of controversies. Ambulances were leased for 42 million, 70 million allocated to communication, the daily press conferences that are being done. 4 million also controversially went to refreshment, and Kenyans are questioning the fact that if we can allocate all this money to things that do not necessarily matter, yet the place that we need to put the money the most is saying is broke. That is Mangunyi's view. Let's take a look at another. At KOTDC11 says, KEMRI cannot replenish testing materials, protective gears, and the much needed reagents. I'm just wondering where all the money meant for COVID-19 fight went to. The government is not taking this disease seriously, but expect us to cringe at the mention of the disease, at its mention rather. So these are thoughts shared by the good fellow online, just saying that if the government is not taking COVID-19 seriously, how does it expect Kenyans to take the disease seriously? And one of the ways maybe that he thinks the government can take the disease seriously is by allocating enough funds in the fight against COVID-19. We all know that WHO says testing is a critical part in the fight against COVID-19 because you cannot have statistics and data if you're not testing people. You have to test to know how far you're tracking with the disease and what containment measures you need to put in place to contain further spread of the disease. Let's take a look at one more tweet probably. At consumers_KE says, where was the 7.4 billion from the CBK utilized? KEMRI is often complaining of a lack of funds as the ministry sorted this issue out. The 1 billion from World Bank is yet to be accounted for. Would you share the facts on the same? Consumers_KE just questioning the fact that KEMRI is broke and there are funds out there, and it's saying we need to see accountability not just from the government but equally from KEMRI. How are funds being utilized? If you're given 158 million shillings, how was it utilized? And maybe from the 950 million additional funds that you're seeking, how will that money be utilized? But also from the government, the CBK donated 7.4 billion. We are yet to see how those funds were utilized, and if they were utilized to the satisfaction of Kenyans, because it's Kenyans that are reeling from the effects of coronavirus. This is some of the thoughts that you shared online, but we want to cross over to the streets and hear what you had to say about the topic that we've been discussing today, which is COVID-19 heroes. Maybe if you see them on the streets, you could tell them who's your COVID-19 hero. Here's Street Talk.
Hilo ni president wetu Uhuru Kenyatta. Hero mkubwa pale juu weke waziri wa afya kupitisha ujumbe. Hero number 2 tumeweka daktari na nurse.
Kenyans. Ni sisi.
Sababu kule ndio mtu wako exposed kabisa kwa hiki. Uwe nayo uwe una ukutana na yeye atakushughulikia hapa. Kisa na maana anahimiza watu kila mtu afai hii maski ambayo inasaidia sana. Kuna wale watu wanapuuza ambao wao ni kawaida, lakini pia ameweka mikakati ambapo serikali inatumia kila mbinu na mikakati watu walazimishe kuzifanya, kwa maana ni kwa manufaa ya wao wenyewe.
Despite the fact that the conditions are hard, they're still going out of their way to meet their daily needs. They're still going to work. They are ensuring that they buy the face masks, which I thought, or we thought, that they would be provided by the government. Unfortunately, they're not being provided for. But Kenyans are still going ahead to buy them, and they ensure that they follow the regulations that have been put in place by the government. To ensure that the poor Kenyans, especially those who are working in the informal sectors, those workers who are doing washing for other women, they are provided for with the face mask. That is one thing. We ensure that they have running water, because like right now, most estates in Nairobi, they don't even have running water. Estates are going like 3 weeks without running water, yet we are being told to wash our hands every day. So we ensure that the water is there for them. They have the face mask, and probably just the little money that Kenyans are putting in this kitty for COVID-19, we provide for them food, because quite a number of them are going to bed without food.
Kwanza ningeweka lockdown. Na kabla niweke ni make sure kila Mkenya ana chakula. Nafikiri serikali imepata misaada ya kutosha. Kwa polisi angetoka, asitoke na rungu, atoke na mask. Ukutana na Mkenya mwenye hana mask, habari yako vizuri, hauna mask hiyo. Kuliko kuanza kuangaisha ule Mkenya.
Yes, I would, because at the end of the day, I think for me, personally, I think saving life is the most important thing. So if I was a doctor, or if my sister was a doctor, I would just ask them to work, but they take precautions.
Namwambia atie bidii, manake hiyo ni wito. Hiyo ni wito, to save life. Hata mimi mwenyewe niko kwa nasi ama daktari, nafikiri ningejitolea kufanya kazi.
Ningemwambia kwa sababu nikwambie, hii ni vita ya kujitolea. Hii ni kama vile unasikia KDF wameenda Somalia, kwa sababu amezoea vita. Amejitolea kupigania nchi yake. Hata madaktari tunawaambia Mungu, kwa sababu watu kujitolea. Sasa hiyo serikali imeona madaktari wanafaa, kwa sababu walikuwa wanapewa 50,000, kwa sababu unajua wabunge sasa hivi wamejificha kwa manyumba juu ya corona, wasishikwe naye. Sasa hivi madaktari wale walikuwa na dharau eti wapewa 30,000, 40,000, madaktari sasa hivi wanaonekana watu, kwa sababu wanapambana na.
Well, some very interesting thoughts out there in the streets of Nairobi. And as we always say, always be on the lookout. You never know, you might bump into our Street Talk team and you might be a part of our conversation on Metropole Debrief. Now, before we wind up, we want to introduce the next cohort of our Debrief Hall of Shame and Debrief Hall of Fame class. Now, because we are celebrating heroes, there's this one person that has stuck in our minds and in our hearts, and his story has been done over and over again, and that is Stephen Hagai, who, as I mentioned earlier, he was a cleaner at Mbagathi Hospital, and while he was cleaning the IDU, he ended up contracting the disease. He was doing his job, and it might not be a dignified job because we know it's not white collar, and he was doing it duly and diligently, ensuring that even the coronavirus patients, irrespective of the stigmatization related with the disease, they had a clean place to stay. And this is something that must be celebrated. We enroll him today in our Debrief Hall of Fame class. We applaud the effort that he put. Even though he contracted the disease, he had been at the Kenyatta National Hospital for a whole month. He recuperated well, and he went back to rejoin his family and his friends. And for that, we salute the gentleman, and we hope that even beyond the COVID-19 scare that he had, after full recovery, he'll be able to still go back and continue doing what he does with so much joy, with so much love, to ensure that patients are well taken care of. As Dr. Bosire mentioned, hospitals should not feel like prisons. They should feel as a place where you can be able to recuperate, where you can feel warmth and you can feel love. And we feel that Stephen Hagai put himself in the way of harm just to ensure that patients recuperate in a dignified place. He is part of our Debrief Hall of Fame class. Finally, for the Debrief Hall of Shame. Now, we all know that there have been guidelines and restrictions out there, and we Kenyans are being asked to do the due diligence. We've been told there's a little hero in all of us. The guidelines are so simple. For example, wearing a mask. But what do we do as Kenyans? We choose to wear the masks under our mouths, on our necks like neckties. We choose to wear them on top of our heads. And as the situation is, if we have 259 ventilators, what if you contract coronavirus and you need a ventilator? How are you going to survive? So we are enrolling all Kenyans who are shamelessly wearing their masks on their necks, under their noses, or their heads in the Debrief Hall of Shame class. Shame on you. Our doctors are working very hard to ensure that we are safe, to ensure that those who are sick in the hospitals recuperate. Let's not make the disease burden any heavier than it is on our health system. Let's adhere to the guidelines that have been issued out there. Wear your mask and wear it correctly. You're protecting yourself, but you're not only protecting yourself, you're protecting your loved ones, you're protecting your family, you're protecting your friends, and most importantly, you're protecting the doctors that have given their all to ensure that this country comes out of COVID-19 alive and on top of the disease. That's all on the Debrief Hall today, the Debrief Hall of Fame, Stephen Hagai, and the Debrief Hall of Shame to all Kenyans that are refusing to adhere to simple health guidelines and protocols that have been issued out there. Now, before we wind up, we have to dose each other with the little bit truth, a little bit dose of the truth, and here is Debrief Take Home. Well, we all know that coronavirus has caused a strain in this country, and we are seeing that the effects are beginning to be felt world over and even in the whole country. We all know that the government said it will find ways of ensuring that hotels reopen and reopen in a dignified manner. You're supposed to test your employees, you're supposed to observe social distancing rules in your hotels, but we're seeing that some businesses are reopening without following any of these guidelines. There's no social distancing in these places. People are not even wearing masks. It's not a must to wear a mask before you go in. And some of these hotels are reopening without testing their staff and putting the customers at risk. This should not be happening. We know that business has suffered, but business will suffer more if we do not adhere to the guidelines that have been put out there. We're also seeing other transporters flouting the rules and starting to fill in their matatus with more people, one seat. It will just begin with one more passenger, then two more, then three more. That 50 shillings, that 100 shillings is of no use to you if you contract coronavirus, and if the 14 other people in that matatu or the 60 people in that bus contract coronavirus. Dear Kenyans, as difficult as is, let's continue adhering to the guidelines. WHO today said that coronavirus is not going anywhere anytime soon. A vaccine is about 12 months to 18 months away. This is our new normal. Forget the old normal. This is the new normal. And it will take discipline to get out of this thing alive. And if you think we're kidding, there are only 259 ventilators in this country. Currently, how many cases do we have? Over 700. Get sick at your own risk. Well, you can always be a part of our conversation online at Ondiro Ganga, on Twitter at Metropole TVKE, hashtag Metropole Debrief, or you can reach us via email at metropole@metropole.co.ke. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.